So today I want to share with you about my recent Vipassana 10-day silent meditation retreat. And I hope you'll find it very useful and hopefully encouraging as well for you to go if you have been thinking about it or if you're doubting yourself. Rest assured, I will give you all the information and hopefully that will answer all of your questions. So I came across the Vipassana meditation technique maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I was reading another yoga teacher's article, and they were basically explaining how was their experience. And they were also explaining what the schedule is and how hard is it. So basically they were telling everything as it should be, but at the end of the day, I think everyone has a very different experience. And I don't think, it is what it is, that everyone really has a different experience, and your experience will be completely different to what you're reading or to what you're hearing from other people. So I'm not going to go into that deep details because I don't want to discourage anyone, or maybe I will say something that it will trigger you, for example, and you'll be like, no, I don't want to go. So I'll just tell you what it is and how was my experience. And of course, your experience will be completely different. So I just came back from my second meditation retreat, Vipassana 10-day silent retreat. This is the second one I've done in the last 2 years. And after the first one, I've decided to kind of like, not challenge but myself, but it's more like I wanted to gift myself to have that experience if it's possible every year. And so I went in February 2023, and then I've decided to do it every February if it's possible, because I feel like February is a month where nothing happens, and because of the benefits I received after the first time, I wanted to make sure I do that every year. And now probably you'll be thinking, why would I spend 10 days on my holidays a year if you're working full-time to go somewhere and meditate for 11 hours a day? What Vipassana is it's a meditation technique. I came across someone's article on internet, and my first reaction was, there is no way I will go somewhere for 10 days where I have to meditate for 11 hours a day and not talking a single word for 10 days. Why would you want to do that in the first place, right? That's your first reaction, like, oh my God, this is so hard. My friends are like, most of them, they feel I'm crazy, or they're like, why would you do that to yourself? It sounds like a punishment, but actually it's not. So I decided to book my Vipassana experience because I felt like that was the right moment in time for me to start working on myself. And obviously prior to that I was working on myself, but I think this is a completely different level of working on yourself. So I was very unhappy with my current job at the time, and I knew I wanted to leave that job, which was making me very miserable. But obviously it wasn't just the job itself. I think throughout my life I was kind of like holding a lot of misery for different reasons, and it kind of like when a glass is like half full and then it starts dropping drop by drop, and eventually that glass gets full. So I was like, oh my God, like I feel like so tense in my body. I was so miserable to the point I was like, I feel if I don't do that now, I'll possibly get sick or drop dead somewhere, because I was so stressed and so unhappy and miserable. And of course, when you're unhappy and miserable, it doesn't only affect you, it affects everyone around you and all the people that you are interacting with. And so I felt it's not fair for my partner, it's not fair for my family, it's not fair for myself to feel that way. And I knew there is other way of dealing with it, instead of ignoring it and, you know, get going with your life. Because, and especially in London, when you live in London, the lifestyle is, well, you don't really have space and time to heal, you know, when you feel like you're not happy, when you feel like miserable, you get going because you have bills to pay and life is very busy. You don't have time and space to slow down. You are just, you know, building up until something happens and it pushes you to do that. So I kind of didn't want that to happen, and I was like, okay, maybe it's time for me to go and do that crazy thing that yoga teacher did at that time. Maybe it's time for me to go and really discover what is it out there, you know, what happens to my mind during those 10 days. So I've decided to book my retreat. I knew I'm gonna quit my job, so that was the perfect timing. I'll quit my job, and whilst I'm free to start the new job or whatever, if you decide to have a few months off, I will go and I'll do the 10 days Vipassana. So I've signed up, I went there, and I remember I was so anxious. I was actually shivering probably on the first day when I arrived. I was so scared, even though it was nothing to be scared of, but I feel the uncertainty of not knowing what would happen to your mind if you're not talking to anyone for 10 days. What would happen to your mind when you're in silence for 11 hours every day, you're meditating? And how would you, you know, I think just the uncertainty of not knowing is what makes us very, I guess, anxious at some times. So what the actual technique does to you during the meditation, it's not only stealing your mind, it kind of makes you, it makes you realize that there is no good or bad, and it makes you see the things as they are. And this is the purpose of the actual technique, to see the things as they are. And I will explain you why. So what happens since we are born? We've been told this is good, this is bad. You should be happy when this happens, you should be sad when this happens, you should be crying when this happens because it's sad. You should do this because from whatever happens. So since we've been kids, we've been told this is good, this is bad, but we've also been told to react to everything, right? So if someone tells you something that you don't like, you will react. If someone tells you something that you like, you also react, but in a different way. So what the actual technique does is it prepares you and is training you to see the things as they are and to become equanimous. And I think it's very important, you know, I think it's very important to see the things as they are, not the way you wish they are, or not the way you think they are. So to begin with, your mind is constantly active. And most of us, including myself, until I was introduced to yoga and meditation, I've never realized that whatever my mind is saying, it's not necessarily true, right? I was deeply connected to my mind to believe that whatever my mind is saying or makes a decision for me, it's true. Later on, I realized that our minds are like AI, artificial intelligence. It collects information based on other people's experiences, and it makes you believe that whatever your mind is saying, it's true. For example, your mind might be saying that you are not a good-looking person, but that's not necessarily true. But if your mind is it has been telling you that for most of your life, you believe to your mind that whatever your mind is saying is true. And some of us, that we don't even realize that our mind is talking, and we believe to everything your mind is saying. Or even worse, we believe that we are our mind. I mean, how crazy is that? So this is why when I've started meditating, when, let's say, you're sitting for 15-20 minutes, the first 5 minutes, yeah, you can start stealing your mind, and maybe you can achieve not having any thoughts coming in, which is extremely challenging. But after 5 minutes, I promise you, your mind will start speaking out loud all sorts of random things, and it's quite hard to think whether whatever your mind is saying is true or is not true, and this is why we should be only observing our thoughts. We shouldn't be reacting to them. However, if you're not exposed to that information, you would be constantly believing what your mind is saying, and you'll be constantly reacting to it. And hence, this is why there is so much misery outside of the world, because people believe whatever their mind is saying, it's true, right? So if your mind is telling you, oh, that person hates me, I should be doing X, Y, and Z to hate them or hurt them back, if you don't really differentiate your mind and your true self, you would go and you will react to it, and you would do what your mind is telling you, which is crazy. That's why people are losing their minds constantly. But that's another topic that I'm not, unfortunately, educated enough to speak about. But hence why I think it's so important to go and try a meditation technique. And I would only speak from my experience about the Vipassana, because what happens during the Vipassana is you're learning not to steal your mind, but you are also learning not to react to everything your mind has to say, and not to react to any sensation, whether they're pleasant or unpleasant. And I think it's important, because if something bad happens to us, we're crying, we're sad, we're miserable. If something exciting happens, we're happy. But the reality is that the things are as they are, regardless whether we think they're bad or good. So we shouldn't be really naming the experiences we are having. This is good, this is bad. No, it is what it is. It's happening, regardless whether you say this is good and this is bad. And this is why we live in so many different experiences as a humans, because for me, bad could be one thing, and for you it could be completely different thing. For you, one experience could be not so happy, but for me it could be like, wow, I'm on the top of the world, this is the best thing that happened to me. So we are so different. But with Vipassana, we are learning to really see the things as they are, right? To understand that to have a balanced life, we shouldn't be really attaching to things. We shouldn't be really attaching to people. And it's very, very important. The first day is you will have to be part of the induction. So everyone gathers together on the first day, and they will tell you the location of where you are sleeping. So the accommodation is different, and it has been different for me during the 2 times I've done my Vipassana. The first time I was allocated in a double room with a roommate, my very good roommate, Franny, and we actually became a very good friends after. Their dorms with 7 or 10 rooms as well, with of course curtains, and it's quite private. Some people have been lucky enough to be on their own as well, but for me, I didn't want it to request to be on my own, or I didn't want it to make a big fuss of where I would be. I was just like, I will just let the universe decide what's right for me, and that will help my experience. Whatever it is, it would happen for a reason, for you to learn something, right? So I was with just one person, and then you have a supper, you have something small to eat on that day, on the first day of arrival, and then the lights will go off at 9 before that you actually go to the meditation hall and you would meditate for a couple of hours, and then on the next day the actual retreats begin, which means that the first day of arrival doesn't count, and you're counting 10 days from the day after to the day when the retreat is finishing. So what happens during the Vipassana Meditation Retreat is that you'll be given instructions every day about the technique, mainly in the evening and during the day, during some of the meditation times. A lot of people, when I tell them that I went for a 10 days meditation retreat, they think that I'm crazy. My dad, for example, he thought I'm going to some sort of a cult. He thought it's like, I don't understand. Why do you need to go to these places? Are you unhappy? Are you having any problems? What's going on really? Whereas my mom, she was like, yeah, I understand, you need to go and work on yourself and still your mind, so go enjoy yourself and see you in 10 days. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the first time it was quite tough for me, and I find that now that I've been for a second time there, the challenges that I have experienced are completely different from the first and the second time. So the first time for me was more physical, where I kind of felt like my knees are gonna fall off during the meditation, because it's just so many hours of meditation. But obviously there's so many cushions provided and blocks and so on, so you can literally make it as comfortable as you want to. The second time was more challenging in a way. The first time also was challenging because it was the first time after a long time I spent without my phone and without being really in contact with my family, my loved ones, and my friends. And so because the retreat is in the middle of nowhere, you don't hear anything other than animals whilst you're meditating and whilst you're there. So you kind of feel like very excluded from the real life, which is great because you have to be you can't really go to a meditation center in the middle of the city and still your mind. So yes, you are required to be somewhere where it's completely quiet to kind of like achieve that level of stillness of your mind. And yeah, it was quite interesting because I was constantly thinking during the first time, what is everyone doing? Oh my God, there must be so much going on, outside. When I come out, I will be having so many WhatsApp messages and on messengers as well from my friends, and your mind is like constantly like trying to tell you like what you don't have right now, it's more exciting, to kind of like get you outside of the present moment. And so I was constantly battling with my mind, I feel like, during the first time. I found the accommodation to be extremely comfortable. It was extremely clean, everyone was very respectful. We had shared bathrooms and toilets. Everyone had to clean after themselves after the shower. So if you're a little bit of a, cleaning freak, don't worry, it's extremely clean most of the time, 99.9%. The accommodations are very simple yet clean. You just have a bed and bedside table. I told before I got into the first time retreat, I told that I will find very challenging not talking to anyone. At the same time, I was looking forward to it because I was just so done with the outside world and I just wanted to go somewhere and not talk to anyone for 10 days. So I think probably this is the best thing that I've done to myself so far in my life. So the schedule, it's quite intense, I'm not gonna lie. And you would probably think, oh my God, this is crazy, I'm not gonna be able to do it. But guys, believe me, if I've done it, you can do it too. And I'm not joking. You can definitely do it. So on the first day, what happens is they will will ring the gong at 4 a.m., which means everyone needs to get up at 4 a.m. Then 4:30, you're required to go to the meditation hall to meditate on your own without instruction for 2 hours, which means that you can meditate for half an hour and then stand up, walk for a little bit, stretch, maybe get some water, then come back. So you don't have to be completely there for those 2 hours. And you can also do that in your room. So within those 2 hours, you can be either in the meditation hall or you can be meditating on your own in your room. I was always in the meditation hall because I find it very distractive to be in my room next to my bed and not fall asleep or not laying down. And I knew if I lay down, I'll fall asleep, and I didn't want that to happen. Then at 6:30, they will ring the gong again, and you are able to go and have a breakfast. So the breakfast is between 6:30 and 8 o'clock. And then at 8 o'clock, you will be required to go back to the meditation hall, which is within the center. So you're required to go back to the meditation hall and meditate between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. And this is when you will begin to receive instructions about the technique. Now, I don't remember if that was on the first day, but within the times when you're required to be in the meditation hall, this is when you will start receiving the instructions. And then what happens is from 11 to 9 you're in the meditation hall, and then again you can meditate in your room or you can remain in the meditation hall for another 2 hours. Then you will have lunch between 11 and 1, and then you will meditate again in the meditation hall or in your room, and this continues pretty much until the afternoon, 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, the old students, unfortunately, are not able to eat. They're only able to drink hot water with lemon or tea without milk, which means the new students, so if you're a new student, if you're going there for the first time, you can have some fruits and tea at 5 o'clock. I was really, really, really happy and content and really excited. I almost felt like I was alive again, you know, and especially if it's the first time you're doing it, you will find a profound change. And the good thing is that that change, it's still really, I feel like it's staying in me. And yeah, I've decided to do the Vipassana for a second time this year. I only came back 2 weeks ago, so I've done another 10 days, which was great, and this experience was completely different. The challenges that I had the first time, for example, of constantly thinking if my family are well, because you have to lock your phone and you don't have any access to the outside world. Obviously, there is a phone number of the retreat that I have provided to my family and friends for emergencies. But other than that, you don't know what's happening outside for 10 days. And 10 days, yeah, it is a long time, but at the same time, it goes quite quick because you're doing pretty much the same thing every day. So the challenges that I had then were not knowing what's happening in the outside world. I felt like physically my knees were destroyed from sitting for so long. And this time it was completely different. This time I find it much more challenging than the first time, which is quite interesting because after I've spoke to different people on the retreat when we finished the actual course, and some of them, they said that the first time was more challenging for them, whereas for me the second time was way more challenging. So for me, this time was challenging in a way that my brain was very active, which it should be. However, it took me much longer to still my mind to be able to practice the technique. I also found it very challenging not eating after 12 p.m. until next day 6:30. So we're talking 18 hours and some minutes. And I find it very, very challenging. However, other people that I have spoken to, they had no problem with not eating after 12 o'clock. So again, everyone's body is different, everyone's mind is different. My experience would be completely different to anyone else. So yeah. So probably by now you're wondering how if you'd like to join the course, how would you be able to be there for 10 days and not talking to anyone during the retreat, not being able to communicate with anyone, and most probably you're wondering whether you are able to do it or not. But as I said, believe me, if I can do it, you can do it too. And I've heard from people that is challenging, that is hard, that is this and that, and as it should be challenging, as it should be challenging your mind to begin to work in a completely different way from what you're used to. We're used to constantly reacting to things. When we are unhappy, we are going down and we are getting depressed. When we're happy, we're extremely happy and reacting into it. But at the end of the day, we shouldn't be reacting to anything. And it takes time. Obviously, it's not going to be only 10 days when you're like, oh, I've just finished my 10 days and now I'll be a completely different person. But believe me, you can do it. And I think that was probably the best thing I've done in my life, and I will say it again and again to whoever asks me. I feel like if I have not done the Vipassana, I would have missed so much in life. It's something that you have to do once in your life, and to see it for yourself, because anyone could tell you like, oh, you should go and do a Vipassana, I think you need it, you've been miserable for a long time, you've been unhappy, you've been this, you've been that. And I feel like you have to go and see it for yourself, because I can only tell you that you will be a completely different person after the Vipassana. You'll feel completely different, you have a completely different realizations. But until you go and you do it yourself, I can only speak for myself and just encourage you to go and to work on yourself, to dedicate 10 days of your life to change your life, because Vipassana, it will change your life, not only mentally, because you'll be working on a deep level of your mind. You will start feeling the effects on your body as well. So if you're not aware, the Vipassana, it's a non-profit organization. And by the way, the Vipassana meditation centers around the world, there, like I said, there are 2 in the UK, there are quite a few in Europe, Spain, Germany, I think, Italy, Sweden, they're all around the world. The meditation centers are run completely on a volunteering basis, which means everyone that works there doesn't get paid. And you are also able to become a volunteer once you complete the 10 days course. So you can basically go and volunteer to work in the kitchen and help to cook the food, or become part of the cleaning team to clean the communal areas whilst people are on the course, which is amazing. It's also based on donations only, which means that at the end of the course you can donate as much as you are able to afford, which is great because it gives opportunity for people from different backgrounds to attend the course, and there is no a specific price set, which means you can donate what you can afford. And you can the person before you has donated for you, which means when you donate before you leave, you'll be donating for the next person, which is amazing because you're giving back an opportunity for someone to attend the same way you've been given the opportunity to be there and someone has donated for you. So life after Vipassana, it's been very interesting. Now that it has been my second one in 2 years, I'm really feeling the benefits, and I'm continuing to meditate every day for an hour, and I just feel so, you just see the things with different eyes, which is very important. And as I said, you begin to see the things as they are, not as your mind is convincing you they are, making up some stories, or not as your mind is making you believe they should be, for example. So you really see the experiences as they are, which really makes your life a little bit more easier, and you're not that miserable either.